Last week, I believe, we had exposed Da Vinci's Last Supper painting. Thank you, Apostle Colleen and Apostle Nate. These are receipts. If you take the Last Supper painting from the mid-1400s, and for the Last Supper painting it portrays 13 people, has nothing to do with Christ nor the 12 apostles. The individual in the middle is not Christ, but a woman by the name of Julia Farnese with a G. On her right-hand side, which is to the left looking at the painting, is not the Apostle John. It is the daughter of Julia Farnese, Laura Farnese with an L. So Julia Farnese, the side piece of Pope Alexander VI, whereas he had a child outside of wedlock because he was not married to Julia Farnese, who was trying to portray Christ in the Last Supper painting. And the so-called apostles, this is the Mandela effect, were not indicative of the true apostles of the Gospels. These men were rapers and pedophiles and killers let out of the Roman prison industrial complex of the Farnese bloodline, the Orsini bloodline, the Coronas, and the Farnese family. The Farnese, the Coronas, the De Medici cartel, and the Orsinis. In other words, we have been lied to. Yes, the Last Supper took place in the Gospels, but Christ did not have 12 pedophiles. Christ had 11 men of God. One was a devil, Judas Iscariot. In the Last Supper painting, Da Vinci had recruited Julia Farnese, a whore, her illegitimate daughter, through Pope Alexander VI, Laura Farnese, and the rest of these counterfeit apostles of the Medici cartel, the Orsinis, the Coronas, and the Farneses. Inside of this building, in the Last Supper, is called the Santa Maria del Grazie. The Santa Maria del Grazie, near Tuscany, out of Italy, during the 14 and 1500s, was a homosexual brothel. A brothel of homosexuality, a brothel of lesbianism, and a brothel for the trafficking of children. It was a mockery, Prophet Erica. That's the Mandela effect. Now, if you take two of the same pictures or paintings of the Last Supper and connect them together as a linear composition, each face represents the structure of a demon. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been lied to. It is my responsibility not to placate Hollywood, not to placate the world, but to expose the truth. Allow the bishop to get a drink of water. Listen. Module 3, Volume 3, The Day of Reckoning has begun. And not just Julia Farnese with a G, Cesare Borgia, thank you, Holy Spirit. The painting of what we've been taught was Christ from the chest up, with long brown hair with the brown and beige background looking like this. That's not the Christ of the Gospels. That's Cesare Borgia, who slept with his father, Pope Alexander VI, who slept with his brother Giovanni and had him killed because Giovanni was sleeping with his sister, Lucretia, whom both Giovanni and Cesare Borgia and Pope Alexander VI was sleep with. It's a mess. And any paintings and statues throughout the world, especially throughout Eastern, Central, and Western Europe, those paintings and statues of what we've been taught was Mary in the Christ child is not Mary. It is not the Jewish Madonna of the New Testament called Mary, but it's a whore, a prostitute by the name of Julia Farnese. I'm talking about the statues and the paintings throughout the world, especially throughout Eastern, Central, and Western Europe. And this child that these paintings and statues are holding is not the Christ child of the Gospels. It is Laura Farnese, who also became a prostitute throughout Central and Southern Rome. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been lied to. And Cesare Borgia also is Salvador Mundi, M-U-N-D-I, having a 666 hand sign on his right hand and the crystal ball on his left, called scrying, which witches and warlocks do.